The old house stood on a small hill overlooking the town of Darkwood, Maine. 16-year-old Alina watched as her parents' car disappeared down the winding road, leaving her and her 15-year-old sister, Maya, alone for a week. The house was a new one, a recent move, and it felt unnaturally quiet. "A week of freedom, Maya," Alina said, trying to sound excited. Maya hugged her arms tightly, her gaze fixed on the house's upper windows. "It feels different here," she whispered. Alina ruffled her sister's hair. "Don't be silly. It's just us and the crickets." The first few days were a blur of movie marathons, takeout food, and an epic battle with their mom's laundry machine. But as the sun set on the fourth day, the silence seemed to deepen. The house, once just quiet, now felt watchful. Every creak of the old floorboards seemed to hold its breath. That night, around 3 a.m, a soft gasp from Maya's room tore Alina from her sleep. She rushed across the hall to find Maya sitting bolt upright in bed, eyes wide with terror. "There's someone outside," Maya stammered, pointing a trembling finger at the window. Someone was standing there. Alina scoffed, sure it was just a bad dream. She went to the window and peered out into the thick darkness. Nothing. "Maya, there's no one there. You must have been dreaming." "No, they were right there," Maya insisted, her voice shaking. "They had a mask on. I couldn't see their face." Alina stayed with her sister until she fell asleep, but a knot of unease had formed in her stomach. 2 nights later, a blood-curdling scream shattered the house's silence. Alina's heart hammered against her ribs as she sprinted to Maya's room. Her sister was huddled in the corner, sobbing and pointing at the window. They came back, and their eyes, they were bleeding red. Alina's gaze shot to the window. This time she saw it too. A dark, indistinct figure standing just beyond the glass. And then, in a blink, it was gone. The room was now filled with a bone-deep cold. "I told you," Maya cried. "You didn't believe me." Alina pulled her sister into a tight embrace, her mind reeling. This wasn't a dream. This was real. They were alone, and something was watching them. Little did Alina know, this was just the beginning. The figure wasn't just watching from the outside. It was already in. The next morning, Alina found a note on the kitchen counter. Her stomach clenched as she picked it up. The handwriting was her own. A hurried, messy scrawl, but she didn't remember writing it. "Don't believe what you see. It's a trick. I'm right here with you." She dropped the note as if it had burned her. Her blood ran cold. The handwriting was unmistakably hers, the ink still slightly wet. But she had been asleep all night. A wave of nausea hit her as she read the words again. Who was with them? And what did it mean not to believe what she saw? She found Maya in the living room, staring blankly at the wall. When Alina tried to show her the note, Maya's eyes were clouded over, as if she couldn't see it. "Maya, what is this?" Alina asked, her voice cracking. Maya didn't answer. She just slowly turned her head and looked at Alina with an eerie, vacant smile. "The window is our friend," she said, her voice a hollow whisper. "It shows us what's real." A chill raced down Alina's spine. This wasn't her sister. Maya's eyes were a dull gray, not the warm brown she knew. She felt a primal terror. The figure outside the window hadn't been an intruder. It had been a distraction. The real threat was already inside, and it had possessed her sister. Panic seized her. Alina grabbed the note and ran outside, determined to get help. But as she fumbled with her phone, she noticed something. The trees seemed to be growing taller, their branches twisting into grotesque skeletal fingers. The air, once still, now hummed with a low, menacing buzz. The road, which was supposed to be a straight path back to town, now looked like a blurry, winding snake that disappeared into a thick fog. The world around her was shifting, warping. The figure hadn't just gotten into the house, it had bent reality around it. Alina ran back inside, slamming the door shut. She was trapped with a stranger who looked just like her sister. Maya stood by the kitchen window now, humming a tune Alina had never heard before. The humming was off-key and chilling. As Alina watched in horror, Maya's reflection in the window began to change. Her face elongated, her smile became a gruesome sneer, and her eyes began to bleed, just as Maya had described the figures. The reflection wasn't of Maya. It was of the masked figure she had seen. "You can't run," the reflection whispered, its voice echoing in Alina's mind, not her ears. "You can't hide. We've been here all along. We're a part of you." Alina screamed, a raw, guttural sound of pure terror. She looked at her hands. The veins on her wrists were dark and swollen, pulsating. She looked at the note in her hand again. The words were still her own handwriting, but now they read differently. "Don't believe what you see. It's a trick. I'm right here with you." The eye was no longer an eye, but a distorted symbol, a black, bleeding eye. She stumbled back, a horrible realization dawning on her. The monster at the window, the one with bleeding eyes. It was her. It was a reflection of something deep inside her, something that was now reaching out, using her own hands, her own voice. And it had found a host in her sister too. The entity was not just external, it was a twin, a shadow self trying to awaken. The battle for their souls had just begun, and the window was merely a mirror. Alina stood frozen, the note trembling in her hand. Maya's vacant smile was a mask, her eyes a dead gray color, utterly unlike her own. The humming from her sister's lips was a low, discordant drone that seemed to vibrate through Alina's very bones. "You've been so careless," the hollow voice of the creature inhabiting Maya whispered. So careless. Leaving your door unlocked. Letting me in." Alina's heart pounded against her ribs. She took a step back, her gaze darting to the front door, the windows, anywhere she could escape. But she already knew it was pointless. The world outside had turned into a twisted reflection of her own mind. The trees, now gnarled and claw-like, seemed to be reaching for her. The road was a blur of gray. "Don't worry," the creature in Maya continued, its lips not moving, the sound a chilling echo in Alina's head. "I'm not here to hurt her. I'm here to save you." Alina shook her head in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" The creature in Maya chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "You've had a little passenger all your life, tucked away deep inside. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's the part of you that wants to be alone, to be free of all the silly rules and people." Alina's breath hitched. She thought of all the times she felt different, the moments of strange, fleeting anger she couldn't explain. She had always dismissed it, but now, a horrifying truth began to solidify in her mind. "It tried to come out before," the voice in her head hissed. "It tried to make you write that note, to tell you the truth. But you're so stubborn. You keep it locked away. And now it's getting stronger. It's ready to take over." As the creature spoke, Alina's own hands began to tremble uncontrollably. She looked at them and saw the veins on her wrists pulsing with a dark purplish light. A chilling cold spread through her body, radiating from her core. She felt a presence, a malevolent force pushing against the walls of her mind, trying to take control. "And my sister?" Alina asked, her voice a desperate plea. "What did you do to my sister?" The creature smiled a wide, gruesome grin. "She's fine. I'm just borrowing her body for a little while. I need her to fight off your other self, the one that's taking over. She's the only one who can." Suddenly, the front door behind Alina creaked open. A wave of icy air washed over her. She spun around to see a figure standing in the doorway, a ghost-like shimmering form with eyes that glowed a soft, ethereal blue. It was not the bleeding-eyed demon she had seen, but a different kind of entity. It looked at Alina, its form wavering, a silent plea in its eyes. "That's her," the creature in Maya hissed. "That's her true self, her soul, the one that's been trapped in your own mind trying to warn you, the one that's been begging you for help." The realization hit Alina like a physical blow. The demon with the bleeding eyes was her. It was her own darkness. The ghost-like form was her sister's true self, which had entered her body to fight the evil within. The creature in Maya's body wasn't a demon at all. It was Maya's soul, trying to save her. "No!" Elena screamed, a mix of terror and understanding flooding her. "It's not me. It's you." She lunged at the creature in Maya's body. The creature laughed, a high, mocking cackle. "It is you, Elena. Look." She was pulled back, her body no longer her own. She was now standing by the window. Her reflection in the glass was no longer a person. It was the monster with the bleeding eyes, its lips twisted into a cruel smile. She saw her own hands, now clawed and dark, raise a jagged shard of glass. It was not Elena making these choices. It was the other self, the one that had finally taken over. The figure in the doorway, her sister's true self, screamed, a soundless cry of pure agony, and faded away. Elena watched helplessly as her own body, now a vessel for the monster, raised the glass and brought it down, not on her sister, but on herself. The last thing Elena saw was the horrifying truth in her reflection. Not two sisters, but two beings. One light, one dark, trapped in an eternal struggle. And in the end, the darkness had won. I still remember the night it all began. It was late October of 1997 in the Bronx, New York City. The kind of night when the wind howls like a wounded animal between the old buildings and rattles the window frames as if they're about to shatter. I was 21 then, a college student, and I had just moved into a crumbling brick apartment building that smelled of damp walls, mold, and something faintly metallic. Rent was cheap, which was all that mattered to me. The building itself had a strange aura. The stairwell, a narrow, spiraling structure of cracked concrete and rusted railings, seemed to breathe on its own, exhaling drafts of cold air that carried with them faint whispers I told myself were only tricks of the wind. The old landlord, Mr. Kaplan, gave me a stern warning on the day I moved in. "Whatever you do, kid, don't use the stairwell after midnight. If you hear anything, stay inside. Don't answer. Don't follow." I laughed it off. Superstitions never scared me. But by the second week, I would learn the truth in the most horrifying way possible. It was a Thursday night. I was sitting at my desk, half asleep over my textbooks, when the sound began. A slow, dragging step echoed through the stairwell. One step. Pause. Another step. Pause. It was steady, deliberate, and it stopped right outside my apartment door. I froze, my pen slipping from my fingers. My first thought was that it must be a neighbor. But then came the sound that twisted my stomach into knots, someone whispering. My name. David. It was low, breathy, almost hissing, as though spoken directly into the crack beneath the door. My blood ran cold. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I waited, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my ribs. The whisper came again, louder this time. "David, open the door!" I stumbled backward, knocking over my chair. My phone was on the desk. I grabbed it and dialed 911 with trembling hands. But before I could press the call button, the whisper shifted. It wasn't coming from the door anymore. It was coming from the landline phone itself. "Don't call them, David. They can't help you." The receiver slipped from my hands, clattering against the floor. I pressed myself against the far wall, staring at the door. The footsteps started again. Slow, patient. They moved away down the stairwell, fading into silence. For minutes, maybe hours, I didn't move. Finally, I forced myself to approach the peephole. What I saw froze my blood. The stairwell was empty. Completely empty. But the dusty window at the end of the corridor reflected something impossible. A figure standing just inches from my door, grinning wide, though nothing was really there. And the whisper came again, this time from inside my apartment. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of my room, knees pulled up, the lamp buzzing faintly above me as if even the light was too afraid to stay on. Every creak in the floorboards, every gust of wind outside made my skin crawl. The whisper lingered in my ears like a ghostly echo, replaying itself over and over. "David, open the door." By sunrise, I convinced myself I had imagined it all. Maybe stress, maybe exhaustion. That's what I told myself as I dragged my heavy body to class the next day. But the building felt different when I returned that evening. The stairwell smelled stronger, like rotting wood and old iron. My footsteps echoed strangely, like someone else was following half a beat behind me. When I turned, of course, no one was there. Around 11:45 p.m., just 15 minutes before midnight, I heard the sound again. This time it wasn't from the stairwell. It was above me. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy footsteps pacing the ceiling. But the apartment above mine had been empty for years. The landlord told me so when I moved in. I stared at the ceiling, heart thundering, as the footsteps stopped directly above my bed. Then, with a slow scrape, something dragged across the floorboards up there, like furniture being moved. Except there was no furniture, no tenant, just silence and dust. I forced myself to knock on the landlord's door the next morning. Mr. Kaplan looked at me with weary eyes like he'd had this conversation too many times before. "You heard it, didn't you?" he asked quietly. "What the hell is going on in this building?" I demanded. Kaplan sighed, leaning heavily on his cane. "Years ago, a student like you lived here. He was quiet, kept to himself. But one night, they found him hanging in the stairwell. Nobody knows why. Since then," he lowered his voice, "every new tenant hears him. First the footsteps, then the whispers, and eventually..." "Eventually what?" I asked, throat dry. Kaplan's eyes locked with mine, cold and serious. "Eventually, the stairwell takes them." That night I pushed my desk against the door. I turned up the radio to drown out the silence. But it didn't work. The whispers pierced through the static. "David, why do you lock me out? I only want to come in." I slammed my hands over my ears. It didn't matter. The whisper wasn't just in the room. It was inside my head. And then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the door. The kind of knock that doesn't ask. It commands. The peephole was black. I couldn't see anything, as if someone's eye was pressed against the other side, staring back. My entire body trembled. I stepped back, but the knocking followed, this time from the closet door behind me. I spun around. My breath hitched. The closet door creaked open on its own. Inside the dark, a figure was standing. My figure, same face, same clothes, same terrified expression, and it whispered, in my exact voice, "Your turn to go upstairs." My body froze. There I was, standing inside my own closet, staring back at me with lifeless, glassy eyes. My double tilted its head slightly, lips twitching into a grotesque half-smile. "I've been waiting," it whispered, my voice distorted, layered with something deeper, something inhuman. "You've lasted longer than the others." The air in my apartment grew heavy, suffocating. I staggered backward, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold onto the edge of the table. My double stepped forward out of the closet, its movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. "Don't fight it, David. The stairwell chooses. It always chooses." The lights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed everything except for the faint glow seeping through the gap beneath the door, the stairwell light swinging violently, casting shadows that stretched like claws across the floor. The knock returned. Not from the front door this time, but from every wall around me. Knock, knock, knock. The apartment trembled as if the building itself was breathing. My double's smile widened as it raised a finger to its lips, shushing me. And then I heard them. Voices, not one, not two, but dozens, all whispering from the stairwell in a chilling chorus. "David, David, come upstairs. Come upstairs." The sound grew louder, surrounding me from all sides. I stumbled to the door, ready to fling it open and run, but the handle twisted on its own. The door creaked open slowly, and the stairwell yawned before me like a bottomless throat. The light bulbs above flickered, and in that dim glow I saw them. Shapes. Dozens of pale, half-formed figures standing along the steps, faces blurred, mouths open, whispering in unison. Their eyes glowed faintly, all fixed on me. My double placed a cold hand on my shoulder. Go, they're waiting. Against every instinct in my body, I stepped into the stairwell. The whispers swelled, deafening, vibrating inside my skull. My legs moved on their own. One step, then another. I couldn't stop. It was as though invisible hands were pulling me upward. The stairwell stretched impossibly long, spiraling higher and higher. The walls seemed to melt and twist, narrowing until I could barely breathe. I looked back once. My apartment was gone. Nothing but black void behind me. Finally, I reached the landing. A single door stood there, crooked and ancient, wood splintered with deep claw marks. The whispers stopped. Silence crushed me like a weight. My double leaned close to my ear and hissed, "This is where I came through. This is where you end." The door creaked open on its own. Inside was not another floor, not another hallway, just a mirror, a massive cracked mirror, and in it, I saw myself again. Only this time the reflection wasn't copying me. It was smiling, eyes wide, arms outstretched, waiting to pull me in. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone. The reflection's hand pressed against the glass, and to my horror, the surface rippled like water. Then, its hand shot out, grabbed me by the throat and yanked me forward. I woke up, or at least I thought I did. I was standing in the stairwell, staring at my own apartment door, but something was wrong. The number on the door was backward. The hallway stretched in the wrong direction. And when I looked through the peephole, I saw him, the other David, inside, sitting at my desk, breathing, blinking, alive. And then it hit me. I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was trapped inside the stairwell. The whispers rose again, circling me in the dark. Another one, another one, another one. The stairwell had taken me, and the thing inside my apartment wasn't me anymore. The wind rattled the old window frames of our house in rural Kansas, and for some reason that night I felt a little uneasy. Maybe it was the way the trees scraped against the roof, or maybe it was just the storm brewing in the distance. I was 15, home alone for the first time. My parents had gone to a weekend conference, leaving me with the house to myself. At first, everything was normal. I sat on the couch, playing my favorite video game, earbuds in, totally absorbed. But then, I noticed something odd. A shadow flickered across the corner of the room. Not from the TV screen, not from the lamp, something else entirely. I froze. It was subtle at first, a thin, finger-like streak of darkness creeping along the baseboards. I thought maybe it was a trick of the stormy lighting outside. But then it moved, independently of the lights, sliding up the wall, curling along the ceiling. I turned on the lamp. Nothing. The shadow didn't vanish. It paused as if considering me, and then it stretched one long, thin finger toward my game console. My pulse quickened. I told myself I was imagining it. The next hour was a slow, creeping terror. Every time I looked away, the shadow moved closer. My chair rocked slightly, though no one sat behind it. The floorboards creaked with footsteps I hadn't taken. When I tried to scream, I realized my voice felt muffled, like the room itself was swallowing it. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. Nothing but static. Then a whisper, so faint I barely heard it, came through the speaker. "Ryan." It wasn't my mom. It wasn't anyone I knew. And it sounded inside my head. I hung up and bolted to the kitchen, thinking maybe I could barricade myself. But every surface I touched, the fridge, the table, the counter, seemed to pulse under my fingertips. The shadows were everywhere, curling along the furniture like liquid darkness. By midnight, I had realized something truly terrifying. The shadows weren't just on the floor or the walls. They were alive. They had intent. They moved like fingers, stretching and pointing directly at me. almost probing, almost feeling for me. I backed into the corner of the kitchen, heart hammering. Then, without warning, the lights went out. Total darkness. And in that darkness I heard it, a whisper, soft and hissing, circling me like a predator. "You shouldn't have been alone." I stumbled blindly, feeling my way along the walls. I couldn't see anything, but the shadows could see me. I could feel them brushing against my arms, teasing at my legs, always just out of sight. My room felt impossibly far away, as though the house itself had changed shape. I pressed my back to the wall, closed my eyes, and tried to calm myself. But then came a cold sensation like icy fingers grazing my skin, and I realized these weren't tricks of the mind anymore. They were here. They were real. I didn't sleep that night. I huddled in my room, knees pulled to my chest, the storm outside beating against the windows like a warning. Every creak in the floorboards, every whisper of wind, made me jump. The shadows had receded slightly, but I could still feel them pressing against the corners of the room, patient, waiting. I told myself it was the storm, or exhaustion, or maybe my imagination. But as the minutes dragged by, I realized there was something else, something impossible. The shadows weren't just moving, they were reacting. They shifted with every move I made. If I turned left, one would stretch to block my path. If I moved toward the kitchen, another would curl along the wall ahead like a living barrier. Around midnight, the whispers began again. Not from the phone this time, not from the walls, but inside my head. "Ryan, come with us." I covered my ears, tried to scream, but the sound wouldn't come. My room felt smaller, the walls closing in. And then I saw it. A thin streak of black moving up from the floor, like a finger reaching toward me. It wasn't just on the carpet. It was floating, hovering, curling around my ankles, climbing my legs like liquid shadows. I bolted for the door, but the hallway stretched endlessly in front of me. My bedroom door was no longer behind me, just another wall of darkness. Panic hit me. I realized I didn't just feel trapped, I was trapped. I fumbled toward the kitchen, hoping to reach the front door. But the shadows had begun moving faster now, fingers lashing out, stretching toward me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, my only lifeline. I grabbed it and tried calling my mom, static. And then her voice, or what sounded like it, whispering through the speaker. "Don't open the door. They're already inside." I froze. I hadn't heard anyone enter, but the shadows were no longer just creeping. They were swarming, climbing the walls, pooling on the floor, inching closer. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might explode. In desperation, I grabbed the flashlight from the drawer and flicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, and for the first time, I saw them fully. Hundreds of tiny, writhing shadows like living smoke, stretching and coiling like fingers. They lunged toward me, but when the light touched them, they shrieked, a soundless, bone-chilling scream that made my vision blur. I stumbled backward into the pantry. The shadows swirled outside the doorway, waiting. And then I realized they weren't trying to kill me. Not yet. They were hurting me, slowly, methodically, pushing me in a single direction, toward the basement. I fought, tried to run, but every step felt like wading through water. The whispers surrounded me, circling my mind. I reached the stairs leading to the basement. I froze, staring into the black abyss below. It felt alive, pulsing, breathing. The shadows pressed around my feet, nudging me forward. And in that moment, I understood the terrible truth. This wasn't just a house, it wasn't just a storm. These shadows, these fingers, were hunting. And I was exactly where they wanted me. I had no choice. The shadows pressed me forward, one step at a time, down into the basement. The air grew colder with every step, thick and heavy, like breathing underwater. The walls pulsed as if they were alive, and the whispers surrounded me, whispering my name over and over. "Ryan, it's time." I reached the basement door, my hand trembling as I turned the knob. The door swung open slowly, revealing pitch-black emptiness. But the darkness wasn't just darkness. It was alive. I could see fingers, hundreds of writhing black tendrils curling along the floor and walls, reaching toward me like hungry snakes. I stumbled back, tripping over the last step, heart hammering in my chest. The shadows surged, flowing over the railing like liquid night, and yet, strangely, they didn't touch me directly. They seemed patient, watching, waiting. I fumbled for my flashlight, shaking so badly it barely stayed on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the basement's true horror. Objects, chairs, boxes, even the old furnace, had strange black veins stretching from them, twisting together into shapes that resembled hands, faces, impossible forms. The shadows had been feeding off the house, taking the walls, the furniture, the very air, and forming themselves into something aware. I realized then, the house itself was alive, and it had been waiting for someone like me, someone alone. A whisper hissed in my ear. "We've been waiting. For you." I turned, trying to flee, but the basement stretched impossibly long. No matter how fast I ran, the shadows kept pace, crawling, sliding, coiling. Every door I tried was gone, replaced by more darkness. My flashlight flickered, then died. Total blackness. Then a sudden glow. My phone, miraculously still in my pocket, lit up with a single message. "Don't fight it, you're already part of it." I screamed, but the sound was absorbed by the shadows. A tendril shot out and touched my arm. I felt nothing. At first. Then, an icy sensation ran through my body, and a horrifying thought struck me. The shadows weren't attacking me. They were merging with me. Every fiber of my being felt like it was dissolving into the darkness. I fell to my knees, struggling, panicked, desperate. But it was no use. The shadows wrapped around me, completely lifting me off the floor, surrounding me from every side. I felt myself stretching, twisting, becoming part of the writhing mass. My screams, my movements, my very presence, all absorbed into the living darkness. And then, silence. The next morning, the house was still. The storm had passed. Sunlight poured through the windows, but there was no sign of me. The living room looked untouched, the game console on the couch. Nothing had moved except for one thing. The shadows were gone, but faint black streaks remained along the walls, curling like fingers, waiting. And somewhere, in the deepest corner of the house, a whisper floated in the sunlight. Another one. Another one. The house had claimed me, and it would be waiting for the next alone soul who dared to enter.